Welcome to RHM Grafted In. I'm Pastor Bob Hill, and I'm speaking to you from my office in Vancouver, USA, in the state of Washington. And I would like to put my hands on the sacred cow called Halloween. Do you know what's kind of cool about sacred cows? You can make gourmet hamburgers out of them, and that's what I plan on doing as we talk about this subject. The Christian church has tried to Christianize this satanic holiday for years. Early on in my pastoral ministry as a youth pastor, it was expected to have a harvest festival for the kids and do something on Halloween that was a counter thing. And I don't know how you counter Halloween. What you have to do is understand what it is and don't participate in it. So let's talk about it. Let me give you a broad brushstroke of Halloween, a trick or a treat, and you decide. And I'll talk about the origins of Halloween, All Saints' Day, and pumpkin carving, and then we're going to get into it in great detail from there. Ancient origins of Halloween. Halloween's origins dated back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, pronounced Samhain. The Celts who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to the earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long, dark winters. To commemorate the event, the Druids built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins, and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. When the celebration was over, they relit their hearth fires, which they had extinguished earlier that evening, from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. By 43 AD, the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of Celtic territory. In the course of the 400 years that they ruled the Celtic lands, two festivals of Roman origin were combined with the traditional Celtic celebration of Samhain. The first was Ferlalia, a day in late October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. The symbol of Pomona is the apple, and the incorporation of this celebration into Samhain probably explains the tradition of bobbing for apples that is practiced today in Halloween. Let's talk about All Saints' Day. On May 13, 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include all saints as well as all martyrs, and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1st. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with and supplanted the older Celtic rites. Then in 1000 AD, the Church would make November 2 All Saints' Day, a day to honor the dead. It's widely believed today that the Church was attempting to replace Celtic festivals of the dead with a related church-sanctioned holy day. All Souls' Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. The All Saints' Day celebrated was also called All Hallows or All Hallowmas. From Middle English, All Hallowmassy, meaning All Saints' Day, and the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic religion, began to be called All Hallows' Eve and eventually Halloween. Let's talk about Halloween comes to America. Celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England. The celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief systems there. Halloween was much more common in Maryland and the southern colonies. As the beliefs and customs of different European ethnic groups, as well as the American Indians, meshed, a distantly American version of Halloween began to emerge. The first celebrations included play parties, public events held to celebrate the harvest, where neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other fortunes, and dance and sing. Colonial Halloween festivities also included the telling of ghost stories and mischief-making of all kinds. By the middle of the 19th century, annual autumn festivals were common, but Halloween was not yet celebrated everywhere in the country. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants. These new immigrants, especially the millions of the Irish potato famine, helped to popularize the celebration of Halloween nationally. Talk about the legend of Stingy Jack. People made jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween for centuries. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it into his pocket next to a silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. Jack eventually freed the devil under the condition that he would not bother Jack for 1 year, and that should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. The next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. While he was up in the tree, Jack carved a sign of the cross into the tree's bark so that the devil could not come down until the devil promised Jack not to bother him for 10 more years. But soon after Jack died, as the legend goes, God would not allow such an unsavory figure into heaven. The devil, upset by the trick Jack played on him and keeping his word not to claim his soul, would not allow Jack into hell. He sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved-out turnip and has been roaming the earth with it ever since. The Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure as Jack of the Lantern, and then simply Jack-o'-lantern. In Ireland and Scotland, people began to make their own versions of Jack's lanterns by carving scary faces into turnips or potatoes and placing them into windows or near the doors to frighten away Stingy Jack and other wandering evil spirits. In England, large beets are used. Immigrants from these countries brought the jack-o'-lantern tradition with them when they came to the United States. They soon found that pumpkins, a favorite fruit of Native America, make perfect jack-o'-lanterns. Let's talk about the spirit of compromise.